Oh, hello. Welcome back. Or me assuming you're coming back. Welcome back or welcome. I decided that I was going to sit down and talk to you about everything I was seeing and thinking and everything I've been seeing and thinking about the Stranger Things finale as a major fan. Major fan. Not longtime fan. I became a fan before season 4. So I'm not a longtime fan, but I'm a diehard fan. I began watching the show and immediately became infatuated with Nancy Wheeler. I think that she is such a cool character. I just adore her. I immediately was like, oh my god, okay, Natalia Dyer is just such a gorgeous human being. And Nancy Wheeler, I just think is so cool. Starts out as this, like, high achieving girl in high school, um, just has a boyfriend, wants to do well in school, wants to hang out with her boyfriend, and then becomes the baddest of asses. That sounds so lame. And then becomes like this kick ass girl who is like, whenever there's like a scary scene, you're like, oh my god, I hope Nancy's here to like beat somebody up because you can rely on her to fuck shit up. I love her. I will ride or die for her. And she's the reason that I became obsessed with the show. But also because early Stranger Things was just so magical. It had such a feel about it that like really sucked you in. It was like creepy. Like I remember, I think I was a lot more of a fraidy cat when I first started watching Stranger Things than I am now. I've watched a lot more horror since then. But I remember being like, I feel like I need to turn my lights on when I was watching in my room in the dark at night in earlier seasons because I was like, oh, it's spooky, it's fun. Like it is still spooky, but I don't feel scared anymore. Season 5, maybe early season 4 I felt that way, I don't know. But season 3 I still loved, though season 1 and 2 I feel like are perfect. Season 3 I loved, even though yeah, I know some people don't like that as much, and I know there's a lot of like fan service, which I don't get. Like, what? It's just like fun moments with the characters. Like, shouldn't stories be like that? I don't know. Season 4 I also loved. The only thing I didn't love was them trying to push this like Steve and Nancy agenda again, though they like clearly work better as friends, and it just kind of screwed things up in certain areas. But loved season 4. Loved all the romance that we were getting. If you don't know, I'm a huge shipper of Robin and Nancy. I love them. I just got this in the mail today, and I'm so excited to read it. Let's see what it looks like naked. Nothing special. But yeah, like, okay, did they make this with me in mind? Nancy Wheeler and Robin Buckley, Stranger Things book. I don't know if I've read all the Stranger Things books, but I've read Rebel Robin, Runaway Max, and Lucas on the Line. I don't know if there's any that I've yet to read, but maybe I'll get on that. But then this one way or another. I'm so excited. But anyways, yeah, so that's like my thoughts going through the seasons. I was so in when season 4 was coming out, and it was so wonderful, and I loved all of it. Let me check my little handy dandy notebook here because I have a lot of thoughts about season 5. So initially, I feel like I was enjoying it. I enjoyed it so much for the first part, the first chunk we got in November, volume 1, or whatever they called it. I was loving it. It like reinvigorated my love for cosplay, and I got back into cosplaying after a long time of not cosplaying, at least a year of not like frequently cosplaying. So I was enjoying it. I was enjoying it a lot. They were still trying to push this like love triangle thing between Jonathan and Nancy and Steve, which is just like tired and like, what are we doing? But I had faith that they like were building up to something, and I was enjoying it. We were getting lots of little Will and Mike bits. The end of that chunk with Will and his powers was incredible. I was gagged. Spoilers for just all of Stranger Things, obviously. So if you don't want those, you can leave. But yeah, I loved it, and the way that Mike was looking at Will and the way that things had been building up. I loved the Robin and Will relationship that was building, of their friendship, and like Robin helping Will understand himself and come to terms with his sexuality was really beautiful. I was loving everything that we were receiving. Nancy was just slaying, as always. I love her pale pink outfit. I cosplay her pale pink outfit. Really like that look. Then the second chunk came out, and I was like, okay. I feel like not that much. Like, I was like, okay. I still had faith that they were gonna end it well. Like, they were building to something. And then the finale happened, and at first I was like, okay. But I feel a little bit like Emilia Clarke now. As time went on, I realized everything that was disappointing me about it. Don't get me wrong, I had an emotional reaction. Like, how could I not? The actors are still portraying the characters, and I'm like, well, this is the character's canon, so I'm gonna react. I bawled my eyes out. But later, I have resentment now because I'm like, well, the writers wrote that story for them. They could have written like a beautiful finale that really lived up to the hype of everything that the show was. And I feel like they just completely missed it. Like that was it. And so I, as a Swiftie who has bought into like clowning Taylor Swift theories before, I was very tentative to get into any of the conformity gate theories, but I totally bought into it after like a couple hours of scrolling and being like, whoa. And part of it was wishful thinking because I was like, well, that was a shit ending. Maybe it was on purpose and there's going to be something better. And like that was all because I feel like the Duffer Brothers writing so far had felt well thought out and like they knew what they were doing. So I was like, well, this can't be real. And I'm very disappointed. I feel like Emilia Clarke, where I'm like, best season ever.
Best season ever!
For a Game of Thrones Stranger Things fan, it really felt like, I think I've seen this film before and I didn't like the ending. It felt like, why do we give men anything? And I'm just kidding, but am I? Like, why do we let men, why the Duffer Brothers and D&D, not Dungeons and Dragons, but David Benioff and Weiss or whatever, two men writing a script for incredible shows, we should not give them this much power or trust because they will drop the ball. The Game of Thrones ending, I'm not even going to touch on that. Maybe one day. Uh, I can't. Before I totally talk shit about all the things I hated, I want to just say I enjoyed that Lucas and Max ended up together. I don't know how a lot of Max's storyline resolved itself. I was so happy that Max was okay because when season 4 ended, that was something that really killed me. I was sobbing and sobbing, and I was so sad about Max. But I'm a little confused because how is she able to walk and see? I don't get that. I thought her bones broke and her eyes were bleeding. I don't know. But I'm happy that Lucas and Max ended up together. That is one thing with the ending that I'm okay with. I was happy initially with like Steve being a coach to like a little league team. That really pushed me over the edge because I was already upset about 11, and we will delve into that more later. But I literally was like, I was like, he's a coach. He's a coach. That's so perfect for him. That made me so happy. And I really enjoyed Steve and Dustin moments. Like that was something that was saddening me in the beginning, and there was a payoff for that. They made up, and they had really sweet, heartfelt moments. The moment of them when Steve almost dies, when Dustin kind of what just happened to me? What just happened to me? Right, ignore, I'm shorter now. I don't know how to fix the chair. I just lost some height. No, bro. Oh shit. I'm literally screwing this up. Alright, that's better. Dude. I'm gonna lose my mind. Dude, what? It should not be this hard. I'm even lower now. All right, it's the next day. I was really annoyed with my chair, and I had to go. But I watched a video, and he told me to wiggle and jiggle it, and I did, and it worked. And the chair is functioning again. All right, I don't even remember what I was ranting about when I left off. So, oh, also since yesterday, I've seen that I don't know if there's like some docu-series out about it. I think there is, but I don't think I have it in me to watch that. But the Duffer Brothers didn't even start writing. No, they had started writing, but they hadn't finished writing season 5 when they started filming. And I think that speaks volumes. Volumes 1, 2, and 3. No. I also heard, I don't know if this is true. I'm just talking out of my ass, but I don't have energy for these men to actually look into their personal lives. But I heard that Ross Duffer's wife left him. He got a divorce. I don't know the details. I just said that she left him, but I'm sure she did because whatever. And apparently, she had been helping write Stranger Things in the past, and I think we can attribute some of the beautiful buildup of Byler to her. But again, that's all my speculation. That could be completely false. Now, the sad, lonely loser, no shade, I'm a sad, lonely loser, but ruined our show because he didn't have his way. Anyway, guys, I'm a little salty, and I think I should cool off. That could be completely wrong. But yeah, one of my main things that was really pissing me off was the lack of Will and Mike. I enjoyed Will coming to terms with his sexuality and like being happy with himself. I really liked that as the volume 1 arc, but given that this relationship has been teased and built up from season 1 or maybe season 2, some people don't believe it was initially in the works. I think it is a huge queer baiting situation. The conversation between Mike and Will that apparently Noah Schnapp, who I don't support on this channel, besides the point, had to request that the Duffers write this scene in because there was no payoff for kind of the back and forth that had been going on between Mike and Will for seasons at this point. And so he had to ask them to put that scene in there. And that's how we got the friends, no thanks, best friends scene, which I was so excited when that scene started because I was like, oh my god, it's happening. No. Nope. I just think that if they had never intended to have Mike and Will end up together, yeah, it's normal for queer people to have unrequited crushes, but to have it on his best friend of years and years and have it the lines sort of blur where it seems reciprocated to a lot of us. Mike is glancing at Will's lips. They're constantly like brushing legs. He's like, Mike is having a hard time in his relationship with the girl. Doesn't seem like he actually really likes her in that way. And, you know, it kind of seems like this is where we're headed, that, oh, these two are meant together. And, you know, season 2, it's okay, we'll go crazy together, right? When blue meets yellow in the West, or whatever the Russian thing is. And they're always wearing blue and yellow. Genuinely, like, this would have been such an amazing queer slow burn story that I feel like is so important right now when queer people's rights are on the line. It just feels like this representation in media matters. It really, really matters. And yes, an acceptance storyline for a queer person is really important, but it just felt like, why couldn't it also be a love story? I'm just disappointed. I don't know if I put it on my Instagram yet, but there's an edit that kind of explained how I felt about that. huge queer bait. And I know that they were well aware of the audience that they'd garnered based around this potential ship, and they definitely got lots of attention and viewers from that. And so that's why I would say it's a huge queer bait and incredibly disappointing. I would like to now touch on Robin and Vicky, because personally, if I'd written the show, which I'm not like a writer, but let's just be hypothetical here for a second. If I'd written the show, Robin would have ended up with Nancy. They had lovely chemistry, and God forbid a queer person falls in love with another main character on a cast within their show, rather than having to have another queer character written and brought in as a partner. Okay, now don't get me wrong, I adore Vicky. I really liked Vicky. I also love Amy Beth McNulty. I think she's wonderful and very talented. That's my little there. But then, all right, now I've given up most of my. No, I will never give up hope on romance. If I had written the show, Robin and Nancy would have ended up together, and it would have been a really beautiful story. But if that's not going to happen, Robin and Vicky should have ended up together. And after being queer baited with Will and Mike, to completely write Vicky out at the end is so disappointing and incredibly obnoxious. Like, she's just not even there in their little ending. And one of the Duffer brothers said something like, "Oh, it's up to interpretation if they ended up together or broke up, probably, which is more likely." Okay. Like, yeah, not every relationship is going to be like that's for life. They ended up together. But to separate the one queer relationship you have, it's a little gross, a little questionable decision there, and it really pissed me off. Unless they were going to do some big reveal there at the end when Nancy and Robin are having their silly little moment, which was a little flirtatious in my opinion, and reveal that they're going to get together. Okay, like, I don't know. It just felt careless and it pissed me off. Another thing that I thought felt icky was them killing off the two traumatized characters, and like kind of feeding into the narrative that like it's the only escape and the only choice for people who are traumatized, which is disgusting. And I thought was a really gross decision to kill. Those are your two deaths, 11 and Kali. I think we deserve to see them have a happy ending, and they deserved a happy ending. 11 being the big death, or oh, I believe. Okay, that kind of pisses me off. Like, going in comment, like, no shade, but going in comments and people being like, I believe, like it's some like really beautifully written like mystery. This is not the Ballad of Spoilers for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, one of my favorite books. This is not the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This isn't some magically wonderfully thought out ending for a character. It's like a, oh, we're wrapping that up. One of them said that Elle had to die so that they could grow up, and that pisses me off. God forbid a story is magical, and God forbid growing up doesn't mean that you have to be, Ted Wheeler and live the life of a boring ass like suburban. Sorry, no shade to anybody who wants this. I'm so happy if this is your goal in life. I personally feel much like Belle in Beauty and the Beast. There must be more than this provincial life. And I feel like that all the time. And so that's why it pissed me off that, in order for these children to grow up, they had to lose the magical friend that they had gained, and she had to die so that we could like lay this all to rest. Like, you can wrap up a story and there can still be magic and there can still be whimsy. And it just felt like people were like, oh god, I hope they don't end it where they're like, oh, and it was all one big Dungeons and Dragons game. It honestly felt like that. Like, they were like, no, we won't do that. Oh, but you did this. So you're like, yeah, the magic did exist, but yeah, Elle's dead now, or she's just, wandering on her own, which seems highly unlikely given that Kali had died already and was very far away, and couldn't have like miraged 11 to be standing there. 11 is most likely dead. That was just a little story Mike came up with. The little I believe, they're like, oh, it's up to, you can decide. You can decide. That's so lame. You're not doing something cool and special. This isn't a well thought out, oh, I wonder. No, that can be done and executed well, and that was done in this book. That was not done here at all. Oh, and it drives me crazy. God forbid people aren't like lame ass adults. Like, it kills me. It kills me. You had this masterpiece of a show and you just like carelessly ended it. It's like you found a few strings and tied them together and we're like, oh, here we go, everybody, and we're gonna put out one chunk here, one finale here because this is such a big deal and such a big show. We want to have you sort of like waiting with bated breath on the edge of your seats tuning in for all of these so that we can have your viewership and your money for this masterpiece ending of our masterpiece show. Just have it explode in your faces and you'll realize we actually didn't care that much or put that much love and thought into the show that so many people have found solace in. Our little show for outcasts. I just I don't even think I finished that thought that I was saying there, but I'm just unhappy. Also, speaking of wanting much more than this provincial life, Nancy Wheeler, who I previously explained is one of my favorite characters ever, I think she's so cool. She also wants much more than this provincial life, and we see that in season 1 when she's talking to Jonathan about how her mom married Ted and, started their nuclear family. That is not what she wants. She has very clearly explained that like that is not what Nancy Wheeler wants. And so I was a little I'm a little unsure about her ending there. Um First of all, I loved that she was getting lots of moments in the fight, but the fight was kind of a disaster in my opinion. I'm glad that she didn't end up with Steve. I'm so glad. They just were not meant to be together. Steve I see as wanting a family, and Nancy I do not see that. She doesn't want to be like her mother. Well, she wants to be like her mother, but not in her mother's path of life, which I think her mother would agree with and support that decision. She doesn't want a family, so them doing that in season 4 was weirding me out. I was like, what are we doing? And everybody was like, aw, when Steve had his little confession where he's like, I want to, no shade to Steve Harrington, I love the man, but a little bit of shade. This was weird. This was the writers, but I don't know, maybe Steve. But him being like, yeah, I want to have 6 little nuggets and driving around with them and travel the world. And then he was like, there's one other thing. You're there too. And Nancy's like, and does like a little like, okay, smile. Because you're confessing to your ex-girlfriend, who's in a relationship as well, by the way, at this moment, that you want to have 6 kids with her and travel around together. So weird. So weird. I made several TikToks around that time in cosplay joking about that because it was so weird. So when Nancy and Jonathan had their little conversation and she said, you know what he told me? That he wants to have 6 little nuggets and like I literally was losing my mind because I was like, that's what I said. She doesn't want that, and that's so weird to say to your ex-girlfriend and current friend. That's so weird. So that was one thing that I thought was well written in this season that I felt vindicated in that sense. But I don't their like breakup was very sweet, and I think I got caught up in the acting because they're just 2 phenomenal actors. But like, why did we go this way with these characters? They had, yes, they were kind of trauma bonded, but like there was so much love there, and you're the writers. You can decide what happens. You can make them have a fulfilling relationship. Why not do that? And I know in one of their interviews, post-release of the series, they were like, well, we just wanted, that's not how life always goes, and we wanted the show to reflect that. Like, people don't always end up together. Yeah, I'm sorry that your wife left you. Doesn't mean you have to ruin Jancy. Okay? Let me hold your hand when I say this. Not everyone has to be as miserable as you are. I think that Jonathan and Nancy were very sweet. And if we weren't going to go that way, I feel like we should have wrapped that up a little sooner. Their breakup was sweet. I liked a bit of the writing there where they were kind of confessing things. It was very sweet. I bawled my eyes out because I thought that I was about to lose my favorite character. I thought she was going to die. Okay, honestly, like, I've made some videos joking about Jonathan donating Nancy's sweater because he doesn't like the color pink, but that just seems like shit writing to me. It just seems like they couldn't come up with enough things to be like, oh, we just don't work. We don't work. I don't like your music, and oh, I don't like your articles that you put all your heart and soul into. That felt weird to me too. Like, if he loved her, I don't think that he would say that, honestly. But then his little thing being, oh, and I hate pink. I hate that pink sweater. I donated it. That's so weird. Your partner not liking a color and donating your clothes because it's that color doesn't mean you have to like pink. Like, that's weird. That is weird. And like, it's just not realistic. That would not happen. Which also, I want to touch on Jonathan as a character because I'm a little confused with what the goal was with him. I think that, like, just why did we do the whole thing of him taking a picture of Nancy getting undressed in the window in season 1 if we were gonna have him not be like a weird creep? If we want him to be someone we're rooting for, I still somehow, like, yeah, I moved on from it too. I will be honest. Because we're like meant to. I just don't understand why we did. That was weird. That shouldn't be brushed aside. That's gross. But it's like we pretend that never happened. And if we're going to pretend that never happened, I really enjoy Jonathan's relationship with his brother. He is such a loving brother, and that was something I thought was well done. Him sort of clocking Will's queerness and being so supportive of him, and their relationship growing up to when they were younger and they were having problems, with their parents fighting all the time. I thought that their relationship was really well done from the beginning. But pivoting a little bit, speaking of Byer's relationships, Jonathan and his mom, I feel like a disservice was done. If you weren't going to make a point about it, where Joyce is sort of focusing on Will after all that happened and neglecting her older child, if you're not going to point that out and like kind of make it a big deal and have them kind of connect about it, then it shouldn't have been done, and I think it was just lazy writing. But she's always like, Will, no, you're not going. Jonathan, you go. You go sacrifice yourself. Like, it just feels like that's not. Like, poor Jonathan. Oh my god. The details, little details changing, it was just sloppy. I will link it over there, I think. Or potentially over there. I think over there. This video of the Stranger Things ending being rewritten by this YouTuber, and I really liked her rewriting because it kind of points out the things that were forgotten, like Dr. Owens never came back into play. That could have been solved some things and sort of wrapped up their show. Dr. K, that ending, unrealistic. Yeah, Eleven's gone, so they just let everybody go after they caused so much trouble for them. Dr. K existing at all, honestly, just kind of pissed me off. Like, it felt like they were just trying to create like a little conflict that like didn't have much meaning. That creator, she said that if she were to write it, she would have had the final battle to raise the stakes, because I agree the final battle was short and it didn't feel like this is the final battle of this show when we've had such crazy scenes throughout the show. That was it, and it was like under 10 minutes. I think that them talking about how, oh, the other like world or whatever is like coming and colliding with the upside down, I think if that was happening during the final battle and like maybe a couple people died when that was happening, that would have been really cool, and it would have been more like, oh my god, like I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm so uninterested in, there's going to be a spin-off show supposedly with the stone thing. Like, Can we ever just have something that, well, used to be a masterpiece, a really well done show, and then just finish it and let it be? Let it exist as that beautiful work that it is, and not create another show and another show and another show. I feel like that's being done with Game of Thrones, and that wasn't finished well either. So I feel like they're foils of each other, these shows. Because I just saw that there's like some other spin-off Westeros story. I'm like, and we have House of the Dragon, and like, I haven't watched season 2 yet. I don't even know if I really liked season 1 that much. I just was. No, I do kind of like it. I don't know. I'll have to rewatch it. I just like the Rhaenyra and Alicent pining queer confusion young friends to wish they were lovers. Yeah, I love that. But anyway, I think that Karen and Ted should have died because like the beginning of season 5, I felt like, because I thought that they had a good plan and were going somewhere with it, felt like it was well done. But the only thing is, like, it would have been realistic for Karen to die in that moment, and Ted as well. And it would have been a big deal and shown us that, like, shit is serious now. It's season 5. But I think that she should have died. And I really loved her badass moment. But I think that you could have had somebody else do that part in the hospital later, where they put the oxygen tank in the dryer and blew up the demo dogs. Somebody else could have done that, because she should have died. And also the Henry reveal, like, they felt like that they were doing, I think that what they thought they were doing with the ending of, I think maybe episode 2, where Karen is spelling out that Mr. Whatsit is Henry. Like, we all knew that, no shade if you didn't know. Most of us knew that Henry was Mr. Whatsit. I think it was pretty obvious. It wasn't some big reveal that they were doing, that they thought that they were doing. It felt like they thought Karen writing Henry on that paper was like Tom Riddle mixing up the letters of his name to say, I am Lord Voldemort. That was a reveal. This was not a reveal. This was not that big of a deal. They could have figured that out without having Karen need to be alive. I think she should have died. And it would have hurt my poor Shayla Nancy, but I think she should have died too. Not Nancy. I'm unsure about Nancy. I don't want her to die, so I don't know. I just thought more people should have died because it didn't feel serious. 11 shouldn't have died. That was shit. I don't know. I just feel like it was handled really poorly, and where the earlier seasons felt so interesting and thought out, and like, I don't know what's gonna happen next, but it's gonna be cool and it's gonna make sense. That wasn't there for me for season 5, and I'm really disappointed. Let me know down below what you thought of the final season. It took me a long time to gather these thoughts because I just felt so like like initially I was happy that like characters weren't being killed off, but like upon further analysis, I think more characters should have died. You know, they do seem to have a problem, or did, of not killing off main characters and having new characters come into the show just to get killed off, but us not having a lot of stake in them because they are new. Not talking about Eddie here because obviously a lot of people had a lot of love for Eddie. But anyway, let me know down below what you thought of the final season. I hope you enjoyed hearing me rant and it didn't bum you out too much, because I feel bummed out now. But I hope you have a lovely day. I will see you very soon. Love you. Bye bye.